Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Good Movie Podcast. I'm Skinamarink, and I'm joined by Skinamarink, and we're going to watch Skinamarink. This is episode 5. We're very excited to be here. This is an episode that we actually said we were going to record. In the first episode, we said we were going to watch Skinamarink, and we're actually doing it. We're here.
Finally.
Are you excited?
I'm terrified, actually. I've started all of these going very excited. Not today.
It's this is I'm gonna just say now, we are not intending to only do horror movies, but for some reason the start of 2023 has been horror filled, and there's still a lot more to come. So this is not the Good Movie horror podcast, it is just good movies, and we are intending to do more.
Just so happens
everything
the good movies this year.
Yeah.
Have been scary ones.
Lots of horror.
Maybe Cocaine Bear's on the edge.
Yeah, Cocaine Bear wasn't quite horror, but when Barbie rolls around, horror's going out the window. Let's give a little bit of background on Skinamarink. You might have heard of it. It kind of had a bit of a time on social media because there was a mixed response of people calling it. Some people called it the most terrifying thing they'd ever seen, and some people were saying it's the most boring thing they've ever seen. So I'm kind of excited to see. I think it's going to be scary. I think everything about it sounds like it's going to be scary. But let's actually get into what it is in case you've never heard of this film before. So Skinamarink, I'll read you the synopsis. I say that every time.
Synopsis.
I'll read you the synopsis. And it's quite short. It's 2 children wake up in the middle of the night to find their father is missing and all the windows and doors in their home have vanished. That is it. And a little bit of trivia that I found really interesting was this movie was made for $15,000 in the director Kyle Edward Ball's childhood home in Canada. I think it was Canada.
Ooh.
The rest of that is true. Not sure about Canada, but the rest of that is true. So I'm very interested to see what this is going to be.
Very excited to see his childhood home.
Yeah, like a Zillow listing. Very excited. Maybe he was trying to sell it.
This is just a really
This is not how you would sell it, but maybe it's how you could sell it.
There's no windows and no doors. $1 million.
And a demon, maybe.
And, oh yeah, a children's telephone toy.
Inquire within.
Free.
What are your thoughts going in? I know we know very little about this. What are you thinking?
Yeah. That's it. No,
You've already said you're very scared, so...
Head empty, no thoughts.
Yeah.
Other than just fear is building inside of me.
Are you actually nervous?
I think because I don't know anything.
Yeah.
That it's... Do you know what I mean? It's not like with other ones, it's a very clear description. So where it's just like, two kids first, I'll probably be sad because children make me sad when they're sad.
Okay.
Parent missing, scary, don't like that.
Not ideal.
Windows and doors disappearing, not ideal, absolutely not.
Well, does this mean that, so when they say disappear, is there just a big open space where the door was, like they can't close the door, or are there just no windows and doors they can't escape? I'm assuming it means they can't escape.
Well, those feel like the same kind of points.
Okay, but if there's no doors, for example, like in your hallway, you're trapped in the hallway.
Yeah, but...
So where the doors were there, are there just archways? We'll find out. This is not that interesting.
No, but that's what I'm imagining. It's just blank. Or is it going to be like portals, like, not like a portal, but like you just keep returning back to the same place? I think it's blank walls.
I'm nervous.
Yeah.
You're making me nervous.
But also because the picture, which I've got absolutely, obviously, like completely out of context, the little telephone.
Yeah.
Why does everyone keep mentioning it? What does that mean? I don't know.
Maybe it's a conduit.
Ooh.
Maybe that was, I only know that word because of Patrick Wilson.
I can't believe you said conduit and not synopsis.
Synopsis is a hard word.
Why?
Anyways, we are excited. We're going to go watch it now, and we are going to come back and we're going to let you know what we thought, if we make it.
We're not even leaving the house for this one, though. That's what's fun.
We're not. This is available on Shudder. You can go and watch this on Shudder right now. You can go and watch all the other ones. Nothing has stopped you before this, but this one is a bit more accessible if you're like me and don't want to leave the house.
I'm nervous, but I'm excited to come out of this and go, I don't really get it. Well, because this is the thing, when you were just saying about the reviews, I was like, I've not read anything major. When we were just getting Shudder, you can see reviews on the bottom. No spoilers. The top 2 reviews, one was, I love this movie, but I get like it might confuse people. Someone going, this really confused me, but I get why some people might love it. I was like, well, that's it, isn't it?
That's the film.
Who am I going to be? The second
It's like
one.
a 50-50. It's like Yanni Laurel, blue dress, gold dress.
Exactly.
What was it? I'm excited.
It was blue.
It was blue. I can't remember if it was Yanni or Laurel, though. This film has been out for a while, but if you haven't seen it, there are going to be spoilers in this episode, so be aware. If you don't want to know anything that happens in this film, stop listening, come back, go see it in a different order to what I just gave you, but come back and then we'll talk about it afterwards. Let's go. We're back, and I don't ever want to think about put the knife in your eye again.
You've brought that back into my mind. I don't want to think about it again. I don't want to think about it in the first place.
That was horrifying. Genuinely horrifying. The film we'll get into that, but that moment in particular really, let's just start there.
That really hit it in.
So did he. He's 4. No jokes, he's 4. What did you think of Skinamarink? Give me your initial thoughts.
I really liked it, but I want to just never think about it ever again. I thought it was a really clever movie. I was really into it, which I'm really pleased because I thought I was going to get confused and not be sure. I was really into it. But yeah, I don't want to think about it ever again. I don't want to watch it again.
I don't think it warrants any kind of. Well, I don't know. I feel like I could probably watch it again, but it doesn't need to be rewatched again. I think you could have. You can see that and comfortably feel as though you don't ever have to broach the subject of Skinamarink ever again.
Yeah, like it's a tricky one because I'm like, I think the scariness probably comes from the first time of watching it and not knowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I watched it again, I know there's not a big jump scare. I know I'm not going to be scared by a face or like the things that I was thinking about the whole time, whatever. But just mentally, the toll it took on me.
What were your standout moments? What bits are you most trying to not think about now?
I don't think I have any standout moments specifically because I think where it was these similar things are happening. I'm not sure how to.
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean, that it obviously was like samey that we were flicking through these shots, that it wasn't. I don't know. There's no standout moments in that sense.
I know what you're saying. It wasn't like there were all of these scenes that you could recall. There weren't actually that many scenes in the first place.
Exactly.
Is there any kind of big thoughts that you're thinking though? Like, because for me, like I said, the knife in the eye, and then him making the phone call and saying he hurt himself was just a bit.
It's such a weird film because I think it was very much it was a feeling. I don't feel like I watched a film.
I totally agree.
I just experienced something for a minute.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a bit of an incoherent episode in that sense because I think, like we just said, there wasn't actually really anything happening. And I will agree with the reviews that you read a review that was like, do you like staring at walls for 2 hours? And it is that. It is. And I think it either works for you or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And so actually, it probably was almost a bit of a silly question to be like, what were your standout moments? Because unless you're going to tell me you like the light switch, what did you like? Do you know what I mean?
I think I like elements in the sense of how it was made.
Yeah.
I thought the way the doors disappeared, I thought was really cool. And there's that little kind of noise. And I was like, that's really fun. And with the phone call, like the dialogue, I thought was really clever. There was like barely any dialogue in that film.
Yeah.
But it was really clever. It was just very unique. I've not watched many. This is like an indie film, isn't it? I suppose you'd call it. Yeah. I've not watched really kind of any like indie horror films as well. I've never touched Shudder. I don't know what kind of stuff's on there. I've never watched kind of any horror film that's not like a big blockbuster. So to see a story, even it's a kind of weird story, but I guess the idea of like these kids being home alone, and that's the kind of story that you could almost present to multiple like directors or studios and they'd all tell it in a different way.
Yes.
I've not seen a film that would take this avenue of it was really dialed down, like you're looking at the corner of the walls for all of the film.
That's such a good point.
And I would watch way more films like that because I've not entered that
space.
Yeah, that era of films that are like that. So I'm now like, well, I want to go watch loads of films like that because I really got into it. And it was really cool to see that you can do that and you don't have to like show all of this stuff. I'm really into this movie.
No,
I really liked it.
I can tell that you really enjoyed it and I'm so glad you did. And that's such a good point because you could have taken that story, you could have given that story to James Wan and it be a totally different film. You can take that down any avenue that you want. It was it a lot of showing and not telling, or was it a lot of telling and not showing? I can't tell.
I had that exact showing and telling. I was like, how did he do it?
But I can't tell which way round it was.
It was
because we were being told things through dialogue, but we were seeing things, but then at the same time, you're not seeing a lot at all. So I guess it was more telling than showing.
But you're also not being
But it
told
was a good
anything.
thing.
'Cause
Yeah.
the dialogue was minimal.
And we're still completely in the dark. Exactly. It was, yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of people calling it experimental. And I guess that is exactly what it was. It was very much like a very rogue way of telling a story. And as I say, I do, which is not to repeat every review you've probably seen about this film, but I can appreciate somebody not liking it because it was a bit strange. But I loved it. I think it either works for you or it doesn't. And it just worked for me. I loved it.
I think I've never seen a film where the audience is so specific one way or another.
Yeah.
Like, you've either got people thinking, it was all right, it was really good, it was terrible, I quite enjoyed it, it's quite varied, or you'll dislike it but you'll really appreciate one area. This truly was like, you either could not care less or you were really into it. And I think that's really cool. Someone described it as though you are just a child again. I can't remember exactly what they said, but like, you're seeing that as like the 4-year-old is having a bit of a nightmare or whatever. And I was like, it made me feel like a child having this terrible experience. And if you're not in that mindset, I made a note that I think this movie is for people, if you don't want to put your feet down because there's a gap under the bed and you're like, something's going to touch my feet. If you don't feel like that, you're not going to care about this movie in the slightest. Because it got into those areas of like, there's a dark hallway there. And you're going, I'm not bloody looking down that dark hallway.
That is absolutely spot on. It tapped into those irrational thoughts that you had as a kid, exactly like you just said, your feet hanging off of the bed, or, you know, seeing the darkness through the crack of your door at night and things like that. And I do agree, and we said something similar to that as well. I think if you went into this film with somebody saying to you, that was crap, and I did not like this film was so boring, and that was all you saw about it, and you went into it with that lens of, I think this is going to be quite boring, and obviously this stands for any movie, but this film in particular, you could view this as, oh, well, what is this? But I don't know what it was. It just worked for me. It tapped into such like an innate feeling of fear, and the last probably 20 minutes of it, me and you both were literally like, I just want this to end. But not because I wanted it to be over. I was enjoying myself. I wanted the feeling to end. I was like, I need this to end.
Yeah, I don't want to turn the film off. We're done now.
It was very eerie. I won't say, I know there's people saying it's the scariest thing of all time, but I think you've captured it best in it being more of a feeling, which being scared is a feeling. But I'm not going to say, oh, it's the scariest thing I've ever seen, but it is one of the most visceral reactions that I've had, because I was uncomfortable. Yeah. Whether or not you would deem it scary or not, it was uncomfortable. And claustrophobic. I think you almost couldn't put it on a scale. Again, this is the thing of watching films where someone might say Insidious, maybe a weird choice, but because one I'm thinking of. Yeah. I think Insidious is very scary. I then couldn't almost say whether I think this is more or less scary than that, because it was a completely different idea and a different... it was a feeling that I felt so different, whereas I'm watching something like Insidious and I'm jump scares and there's going to be this, and this was just kind of... This was just happening around you. Yeah. I made a note that I thought the audio was very cool. When they'd say each other's names mainly, I guess that was kind of one of the main lines they had. That felt so like bassy in my chest. That like added to it of being like, ooh. I saw people saying their interpretation of it, I suppose, is that it's a kid's nightmare. It's Kevin's nightmare. And the audio, where you just felt it so like intensely, it put me in like a weird mental space, maybe like what your dreams sound like. But then also the demon, not demon, but whatever the thing was. I guess it was a demon. Kind of a demon. We don't know what it was, yeah. Their bits of dialogue was a little bit like, ugh. But then also the bits where you couldn't hear anyone, but there was the subtitles. What? I don't know why they did that, but like, ooh. Yeah. There was a lot of moments that I did really, really enjoy like that. Obviously with horror, nothing is objectively scary. But to me, even the things, you know, the voices and the kids' voices were unnerving. And so I do think it was all of those little elements added up together that just did it for me. I don't know, I can't really explain why it did it for me, but it did it for me. I think it's the kind of film, adding on, you couldn't sell it to someone, because if you were to be like, the synopsis that we read, you know, they're home alone, they go missing. And you'd obviously say to someone, oh, there's a lot of shots of the ceiling. And this. That is going to put someone off. That doesn't sound interesting. You do have to watch it, I think, to
fully understand, like you're saying, to get all of those little bits coming in.
I think if you had come to me and been like, I didn't like that, I couldn't convince you to look at it another way. I think it would just be, okay, and I get that.
Yeah. The upside down art, because the poster, they're upside down the poster, or one of the posters. And then at the end, he's upside down, the chairs were on the ceiling and stuff. And then the bit at the end where like all the toys are in kind of the bunch and it's like 572 days later.
Yeah.
Days. It didn't even say days later. What did that even mean?
I think it just said 572 days.
What do you think that meant?
I mean, I guess it's tricky because my whole sort of thought process of it afterwards was he hit his head at the beginning. Was it just this child nightmare that feels never ending, and maybe he is a little bit, out of it because they took him to the hospital and all those kind of things. So I sort of was, there were some really horrifying bits with the blood and stuff like that, and obviously Kaylee's face and all that kind of thing. And then at the end you had Kevin saying, can we watch something happy now? So it kind of was like, well, I think he's okay. So in terms of what the 572 days are, though, that kind of does make it seem like it's actually real, and they have actually, or he, I don't know sort of what Kaylee was doing in that kind of time, but Kevin was actually having this like perpetual nightmare. But I don't know, I guess that's the whole point. I guess the whole point is like, what does it mean? What does it mean?
I like that though, because I think I almost don't need to know. I sometimes come out of films and I'm like, oh, well, I'll watch someone explain the ending. I would like to watch someone talk about this because I just would like to hear more opinions on it and get in. It's more interpretational that you're saying. I don't think I wouldn't get an answer, but I don't need an answer.
But it's just fun seeing what other people take away from it. And during the bit where Kevin was on the phone, you said to me, oh, do you think he got through to the police? Like, do you think the police are coming? And I was like, I just can't see the police turning up at the end of this film. I don't know how it's going to end, but I just can't see it ending with the police turning up. It just did not have that vibe whatsoever. But it was a great question because I was thinking, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I think this is just going to be some big abstract piece.
Because I was thinking, as I said, I was like, well, they're not going to kick a hole in the wall. I know the door's really gone. And like it opened up all these new questions. Like, are the doors really missing? What does it mean?
Yeah.
The goddamn telephone.
Yeah, you did not like that telephone.
The whole film, I was like, the telephone's going to come in at some point. But what? And that made me more nervous for me because I was like, what does it even mean? It didn't even do that much.
The telephone wasn't as scary as the internet made out the telephone was going to be. I was ready for the telephone to launch its own murder brigade, sorry. And it just kind of did a little scream. And that was it.
Oh my God.
To kind of segue off of that, what was the bit that had you the most like toe curling uncomfortable, like maybe most scared or most freaked? What bit were you sort of the most tense? Because I think I can remember my bit straight away.
The look under the bed bit.
Yeah.
Because peak of like a child, I don't want to look under the bed. Anytime it cut to like a bit of black.
Yeah.
Anytime the camera moved just a bit too much, and because you don't see the kids' faces, so anytime the camera moved just too much, I was like, you're now going to see someone.
Yeah.
So I was making that fear.
Kaylee's face was a bit horrifying.
Yeah.
You were like, what's on the screen? I was like, she's got no mouth.
Yeah, there were bits because I like had my fingers.
Or eyes.
I like strategically had my fingers, and I was like, oh, I'm going to move my fingers slightly then.
The whole last bit was probably my freakiest bit, and I actually really liked the face at the end. As they showed it, I thought it was just going to be a flash, and then it just lingering there was so... I don't even know if you saw that because you had your hands over your eyes. Did you see it?
I could see the area, but I like where I think my eyes...
Molly hasn't seen Skinamarink.
My eyes water when I get nervous, so I had tears in my eyes. My thought was, if I properly look, I'll hit the time when it makes me jump or something. Yeah. So I then was like, well, don't look now, because now it's going to make you jump or something. Is there like a pronounced face? I'm going to Google it in a minute.
No more than like a sort of like a Halloween mask or something. Not a Halloween mask, you know what I mean? Like the Jabberwockies mask. It kind of looked a little bit like that. You know what that is?
No.
Just like the plain white mask with the basic defined features of a face.
Oh, okay.
That you would maybe paint in school or something like that. It looked like that. You couldn't see much. But also the look under the bed was, I mean, that was when it kind of kicked off, wasn't it? That was when it started to get a bit weird. And I can only assume it was the mum sat on the bed. Now watching that back, would not be a scary scene because I would know it was fun. As with anything, that's how things work. But the fear of her turning round was enough to have me like, I don't like this. And then there was all kinds of noises and all kinds of things. So I do want to do a Google of what half of it means. And I feel like there's a lot to dive into with the film. But equally, there could be nothing to dive into with the film and it's all up for interpretation and there's no actual solid answer.
It was just like a slice of life kind of thing that you heard, you know, Kaylee said something like, I don't want to about mum. Yeah. Maybe we don't need to know.
I don't think we need to know.
Maybe that bit's completely irrelevant. Maybe her mum just didn't take her to get ice cream that day and it didn't mean a single thing.
She's just mad.
She's just a bit mad. And that's fine. 7-year-olds are allowed to be mad.
Was she 7? Did they say 7?
I'm gauging that she's slightly older than Kevin, who was 4.
Yeah.
I'm just using a random age gap that
That's
she was
fair.
maybe 7.
She was older for sure. I do want to point out that you took a slight horror tone off of it for me by telling me it was essentially Home Alone. Kevin in the house, no family. Well, I mean, he had a sister, but Kevin Home Alone.
Home Alone.
Home Alone 3, Skinamarink.
I want to say there's a Home Alone.
There is. I think there's about a Home Alone 5.
Not without Kevin's only in 2 though. 1 and 2. Sorry.
No, but I think they still call him Kevin in the other ones. I think the character's still called Kevin. I could be lying, but I have a feeling.
In the new one.
So this is actually just the Home Alone cinematic universe.
This is the equivalent of when they do Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It's the scary version of Home Alone.
Of all the names you could have picked, Carl. Kevin,
Kaylee, and
Kendall, Kylie, Chloe, Kim.
No, wait, what was the director's name?
Kyle,
they got another K.
Love it.
He had to.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have made sense otherwise.
Why?
Because
you were like, please don't ask. I don't know.
Leave it there, Ellie. Leave it there. If you, in a genuine sense, not like, what would you do in this scenario? Because it's kind of a weird scenario. Would you sit in the dark and put your cartoons on?
I would sit in the dark and I would put Friends on. And I would, or New Girl. And I would, I'd cry.
Yeah.
I would I could feel, maybe that's why it resonated with me so much. Because I could feel how I would feel alone in a scary dark house and something's telling me to come upstairs.
I'd turn all the lights on in the house. That's my first one.
But he turned them off.
I don't think they ever fully turned them all off. I don't think they,
No, but they turned the hallway light on and he turned it off. He told Kevin to stab himself in the eye and Kevin did it.
Yeah.
So he has a lot more power over the scenario than you think he does. There's not really anything you can do. And I think that's what makes it so scary is it is this impossible scenario.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Because you couldn't enjoy yourself in any way. There's no way you could make light of the situation.
I mean, I was thinking halfway through, what if you started bantering him? What would he do? He didn't try that, but he was only 4, so he can be forgiven.
I can't blame him, yeah.
Did I support Kevin's actions? Yes, he was 4. Would I have done things differently? Yeah.
You're not 4.
I'm not 4, so yeah.
I do think in terms of would you banter with them or could you? I do think that sometimes in films, there are moments and I'm like, if you did start doing something kind of silly, what would happen?
You know in Insidious, to go back to what you just said.
That made me think of Insidious.
Okay. But you know when Patrick Wilson goes into the bad place.
Yeah.
And the Darth Maul is sharpening his claws to tiptoe through the tulips. Oh. If you started doing the Pennywise dance from It 2, what is he going to do? He's going to be like, what are you doing? That's not scary.
They want to keep the vibe. And if you break that vibe,
what happens? Ghostface. I just start breakdancing. Stab me.
Shoot me.
I'm moving too fast.
I'm dodging and weaving.
Yeah,
get me, Ghostface.
It kills the vibe. Your little nightmare is over, honeys. I didn't make it funny, but I made it awkward.
Well, hey, wait, our questions have been answered. In It Chapter 2, they start heckling him and it works. So just start doing that, guys.
This dude's really lame. That's what I need to happen to me. And someone go, this chick is so whack.
Chick is whack.
Sorry.
Are you haunting people that you need someone to say it to? I went,
No, if I was
you were a demon?
if I was Kevin.
Oh.
No, if I was Kevin.
Sorry. I thought you meant like if you were a demon and someone said to me this chick is so whack, I'd stop.
What I'm saying is, obviously he had some power over Kevin because he made him stab himself in the eye. Not to keep coming back to it, but he made him... I don't know whether he had power over Kevin or whether it was because Kevin was obviously a very young child that he felt like he had to do what he was told.
He bullied Kevin into doing it, I'd say, in so many words.
So if Mr. Skinamarink says to me, come upstairs, and I'm like, I don't want to...
He's good at... Kaylee didn't listen to him. She wanted her mum and dad. So you couldn't disagree. But if you just started doing silly things, there's a line there that you're not saying no.
A grey area. He might take something else away though.
If you start doing the Pennywise dance, he might take off like your arms.
Like my big toe for balance.
This is the true nightmare.
What a piece of art. Art's amazing, huh? Look at us.
Look at us. Kyle. You did a great job, Kyle.
Do you have any final thoughts about Skinamarink that you want to share before we go?
Do you reckon there was a relevancy to it being in 1995?
Not necessarily, but I think whenever you take modern life out of things, it's easier to explain things. Because in 2022, there's a lot more things that you'd be like, why don't you just do that? Maybe not for a 4-year-old, but you know what I'm saying, in the grand scheme. And also he was watching older cartoons.
That's fair.
All that to say, Skinamarink, what are you giving it on Letterboxd?
I've done it already. I did it very quickly. It's 4.5.
4.5. You said that like a television host. Mine's 4.2. I'm sure you can gauge over the last half an hour that we really liked it, but it did it for me, and I'm glad it did because I had been really looking forward to it, and it delivered for me.
I'm really glad we watched it. I was getting very nervous. It was a very good experience, though.
Very good experience.
That wasn't the way to describe it.
It was, though. I feel like when you watch horror films now, it's not always the horror experience you want it to be. And that was, for me, that was a really good experience. I had a really nice time. And do you know what made me happier? $15,000. It looked like $15,000. We didn't see a lot.
You didn't need more.
But it was great for $15,000. As always, Molly, do you have any parting thoughts for us?
Kyle is not a horror movie name, but it worked in this sense.
Kyle or Kevin?
Oh, every time I get him, I think the director's called Kevin. I think the director's called Keith, but I also, in my mind, kind of am like Edgar Allan Poe. Because he's like...
What?
He's got 3 names.
Oh. I was
None
like,
of them
what?
are the same as Edgar Allan Poe.
You got Edward?
Yeah.
Wow. Nepo baby? Thank you guys, as always, for listening. If you want to follow us on Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at The Good Movie Pod on both of those. And with that, guys, we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.